Dude,
Hey, got
hi.
a question for you.
Huh?
Yeah? Hello? So I can hardly hear you. So, yeah. So, my question is, what do you think happens to us after we die?
Um, I don't know. Do you know what I think?
What?
Nothing.
Jack.
Okay.
Nothing.
Yep. So,
Oh,
we've got
Honestly,
nothing? And what do you think? What does your friend think?
too.
reincarnation.
Okay.
Definitely.
So, do you guys believe in like any sort of God or creator? Anything like that?
Um,
I don't.
I don't know because I was brought up with it, but it kind of not really anymore. So I wouldn't really say, but it's kind of maybe. I don't know.
Okay. Okay. Because, like, maybe a simple example. Think about this house that I'm in at the moment. Have you
Are
ever
you a
met the person? Pun, sorry?
are you a preacher?
I'm a Christian. I don't know if you could call me a preacher. I like chatting to people about this though. But this house that I'm in, have you ever met the builder for my house?
No.
No.
No, me either, right? But do you believe someone built it?
Yeah. No,
Of
I know. I
course.
know this theory because I've studied this. The theory of who was the guy that done it about like the whole
Oh,
because
you're talking about
I
Thomas Aquinas. Is that who you're talking about?
yeah that one yeah.
Yeah, cool. Thought so. So,
But the
so
only
you, yeah.
No, I know I've been brought up with Christianity, but the reason I'm not so into it now is because I'm gay. So
Okay, but why does that cause you to reject the idea of a creator, for example?
well, it's not that, but it made me reject the idea of the church because my church they performed conversion therapy on one
Okay.
of the children.
Yep.
He was a bit older than me, and he spoke out about it before I told everyone. So it I still love everyone in my church, but it kind of took me
Yep.
away from
Yeah.
going to church.
Yeah. Okay. No. Okay. That does make sense. Yeah. And I'd say that the church has failed you if it's tried to make you different by therapies and by sort of philosophies rather than offering you the hope of the gospel. That's disappointing that they would try that or put that forward. But maybe ask this based on your time in the church. What was the good news for how people like us could get into heaven? Do you know? Do you remember the main point or the good news?
Honestly, I don't really remember much. I've kind of just blocked it all out because I stopped going when I kind of realised because I knew about what had happened, and I
Yep.
just knew it wouldn't have been accepted. So I stopped going pretty early.
Yeah. So
I was like
so
15.
yeah. So that's a specific church. Should we judge God or who God is based on the failures of some people who've claimed to represent Him?
No, definitely not. I've been. She asked me yesterday or something if I believed in God, and I was
That's
like,
actually quite weird because as soon
yeah,
as he said that, I was like,
because I was in that kind of like
Mm.
limbo of it because like growing up, my religion was a big part of my life.
Yep.
Now, I feel like what not because of me being gay that made me be like hate the church. It was just like
Hmm.
things that had happened and the
Hmm.
way I've heard my family speak about it and using
Yep.
religion as an excuse, and
Yep.
that's my reason.
What if I put this before you? Imagine that tomorrow, or God says that all sexual activity is okay. The question would be, even if that was the case, even if anything that any of us ever thought sexually was okay, what do you think God would be able to find us good people if He said that was fine, based on the rest of our lives? If He judges us based on everything else, basically, that's what I'm saying.
Well, I know that like doesn't hate just because doesn't hate members of my family because they've been divorced or something like that. It's
Okay.
but it's just the it's literally just the way my family has acted and the things
Yeah.
I've heard growing up that's put me off it. It's like I feel like now if I was to go back and I would need to do it in a more personal way instead of in the church.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, because maybe how would I explain? Maybe ask this way: do you think if God looked at your life, did He think you're a good person or a bad person? That's sort of what I'm asking.
I don't know. I live my life as best I can and
Yeah.
be the best person I can, and not being
Okay.
like, I'm not like a pure sinner.
Yeah.
Like the only thing I do is that I'm gay, and I can't change that. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
And I'm
Because
not going to change that.
okay, because let's have a look at a few other ones for a moment. Like, how many times do you think you've told a lie in your life?
Mm, quite a few.
Me too. I've told more than I can count, right? What about stealing? Have you ever taken something that's not yours?
Only from my brother.
And if you
Only family to wind them up. That's it.
yeah, yeah. What
Never
about
stolen
anger? Yeah. Never stolen from a store or something. Yeah. What about
Yeah.
anger? Have you ever been angry, hated somebody, called someone a name?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And do you think you've ever disobeyed your parents before, like done something that they told you not to do?
Only when I was younger, not recently. I'm
Yeah,
very open with
yeah.
my parents.
Cool. So here's the point I'm making, and I promise I'm not judging, but if these were some of the rules that God then judges us by, do you think God would find us innocent, or would he find us guilty? Like, if he says, don't lie, don't steal, don't be angry, don't be disrespectful, but we've done those things, what
Yeah.
would that make us?
Guilty, but as long as you ask for forgiveness.
Okay, because asking for forgiveness is a very good thing to do, but the question I'll have, and we'll come back to that in just a sec, what would we deserve then from God for the wrong things we've done? A reward or a punishment?
Punishment.
Right, and so which one sounds more like a punishment, heaven or hell?
Hell.
Right, now that's not good news for people like us, right? Because we are guilty, right? So is there good news? How do people like us not end up in hell? What's the way for us to get into heaven?
Forgiveness.
Yeah, and how do we get that forgiveness? How do we not receive the punishment we deserve?
Ask for it.
Okay, now asking is a good thing. Imagine this though. Simple scenario before you. Imagine I punched someone today. Now, I promise I won't, but imagine I did. Then the policeman catches me and I ask him to forgive me. Can he let me off my assault simply because I requested forgiveness?
No.
No.
He can't, can he? So just asking for forgiveness actually doesn't pay the punishment I deserve. So if I stand before God and I asked him to forgive me, would I still have to pay my hell punishment for all of my sins? I
If you tell-
wouldn't I? Sorry, I missed that, sorry.
Just for lying, you're going to go to hell even though you ask for forgiveness.
Well,
Or
not just
to
lying.
pay for like your sins, like while you're still living, not talking about like heaven or hell. I'd say like if you know that you've done wrongdoing, and I feel like it's to like that is to do with like maturity and stuff. If you know and like you feel that you've done wrong, then like do like try to do good, and like because
Yeah.
everyone makes mistakes.
Okay.
And like as a young person, like even someone under like like another religion, different than me, like everyone makes mistakes. Like a young person can make a mistake, and then when they're grown, they could be like, that is like really straining on my like in my and on my religion. So like I feel like you can repay for like the bad things that you've done.
Okay, because let's look at that two parts. So the first one, when we've done wrong things, like we do like calling them mistakes, but when you lied, was it an accident, or did you know it was wrong and then choose to lie anyway?
You know it's wrong.
Yeah, and so we can't really call our wrong actions mistakes. They're actually willful decisions to disobey. But the second one, you said try and be better. Imagine go back to that same scenario with this. Imagine I did punch someone. I realise it's wrong. I do 10 good things. When the policeman catches me, can he let me off my assault because of the good things I've done?
No, but you go to jail for assault, and then you'd do good in jail and then get let out early.
Well, true,
Yeah.
but thinking about that, even if good things could reduce the punishment I deserve in hell, infinity minus anything is still infinity, right? If hell's forever, there is no chance of an early release, because even if I knock 100,000 years off my time, I'd still be there forever. So what about this? What's the good news? Is there a hope for people like us to not take that punishment? Can you think of anything else you've heard of in your life that would be good news? What about this? Imagine I did assault somebody. I get the fine, I put it on the bench, my housemate pays the money for me. How much money would I owe to the police if my housemate has already paid it?
0.
0, right? So, do you know anybody that's perfect, that's never done anything wrong, that's willing to pay your hell punishment for you?
What, Jesus Christ dying on the
Jesus.
cross?
Right. So when Jesus dies on the cross, if he takes 100% of your punishment, how much is left for you to pay?
None.
Right. So where could you go when you die if Jesus has paid for all of your sin?
Heaven.
Heaven. But what if someone doesn't trust that Jesus takes the punishment for their sin? Where would they go when they die?
Hell.
Hell.
Then what if Jesus is like...
So what should we be trusting in then as the only reason that God doesn't send us to hell as we deserve, but instead lets us into heaven?
Jesus.
Yeah, and specifically what about Jesus should we be trusting in?
What, he's paying for our sin?
Exactly. Now I've got a challenge question for you. Imagine you're trusting that Jesus pays for all of your sins. You do one more sin and then you die. Where do you think God would send you? Heaven or hell?
Heaven.
Yeah, and why could God still send you to heaven?
Because you still trust in Jesus.
Yeah, and who pays for that final sin that you've done?
Jesus.
Still Jesus. So how certain could you be that you were going to heaven if you were trusting that Jesus paid for all of your sin?
100%.
Do you see how that's good news? Yeah. Now taking that good news...
Everybody on here ain't Christians, bro.
Yeah, there are no accidents, I'll tell you that for certain. So thinking about this, what about a challenge question on the other side? If you were trusting that Jesus pays for all of your sin, and you know that includes what you're doing in the future, would you use that as an excuse to just keep on living however you want?
No, but I'm...
Yeah. Why? You're going to go to heaven anyway if you believe in him?
Let's...
But I'm not going to go out of my way. But there's certain things that I'm just not going to change. Doesn't really matter.
Because let's have a look at this for a moment. Imagine this. Imagine I'm caught in a house that's on fire. I'm going to die, but a fireman saves me from that building. How will I feel toward the man who saved my life?
Grateful.
Yeah. And would I want to punch him in the face?
No, but...
Of course not, right? And
Right.
what's the reason I'm so thankful? What's the reason I don't want to punch him?
Because it saved your life.
Exactly. But does the fireman save me because of my gratitude and the fact that I don't punch him? Is that the reason he saves me?
No.
No, not at all. So take that same picture back to Jesus. If I know I deserve hell, and I know I should be going there, but Jesus has taken the punishment for my sin and I'm trusting in that, how will I feel toward Jesus?
Thankful.
Thankful. And will I use that thankfulness and that freedom? How am I going to demonstrate that thankfulness here?
By living by his word.
Exactly. And so my thankfulness will result in my obedience. Just to check though, does Jesus save me from hell because I'm thankful and because I obey? Is that the reason that he saves me?
No.
No, it's
Because you
not.
trust in him.
Right,
'cause
because
you
I'm
believe.
Yeah, right. So if you guys stood before God tonight and he said, why should I let you into heaven? What would you say?
Because I trust in you.
And specifically what though about God are you trusting in as the reason he lets you into heaven?
Because you have paid for my sins.
Exactly right. So it's not so much that we merit heaven just because we believe. It's that we receive forgiveness by trusting that it is done it for us. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're trusting that Jesus takes the punishment for all of your sin, what will be the reason then that you want to obey God and honor God?
Say that again?
Yeah, you're right. What will be, basically ask it this way. If you believe Jesus saved you from hell by paying for your sin, what will be the reason you do good things and follow God's rules?
Because you want to get into heaven.
Is it a part of what gets you into heaven?
Come on. I don't understand this question.
Sorry. The question might be confusing. Maybe think about it this way. Do my good deeds get me into heaven? Is that the reason that God lets me into heaven when I die?
No.
No, it's not, right? So if I believe that Jesus paying for my sin is what gets me into heaven, why will I then do good things? If it's not to get me in, what's the reason that I try and do good things?
To be a nice person.
Because you believe in the word.
Yeah, I believe in the word. And maybe think about this, back to the fireman. What was the reason that I want to honour the fireman?
Because he saved your life.
He saved my life. So my motivation to obey God and do good things is that God has saved me, and so I'm thankful to the one who saved me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So on the basis of all of that, when do you think you're going to start trusting that Jesus taking the punishment for your sin is the only reason that God will let you into heaven?
Don't know.
Because the reason I ask the when, because I actually can't answer that one. I can tell you the answer to all the other questions I've asked. I can't tell you the answer to that one. And here's why I ask it though. When are you going to die?
You don't know.
Yeah. And if you died today and you were not trusting that Jesus had taken the punishment for your sin, where would God have to send you?
Hell.
Yeah. And I don't want you to go there. So the ball's in your court. The opportunity is yours. What is there that's stopping you from trusting that Jesus taking the punishment for your sin is the only thing getting you to heaven?
Don't know.
Because is there anything in this life, that's worth holding on to, that's worth having, that's worth rejecting Jesus for? Is there anything that's worth going to hell for in this life? Do you think so?
Yeah.
So maybe ask this. Imagine someone said to you, I'll give you everything that your heart desires, but the one condition of accepting that is that you must go to hell when you die. Would that be a good trade? Would that be worthwhile?
No, but then it's not that like I'm just saying that because I'm selfish. It's just because we're obviously like a gay couple, which is like frowned upon within like the Christianity and like
Even though it
Jesus
wasn't
and
mentioned,
stuff.
it wasn't actually mentioned in like the original Bible. It was only mentioned in when it was retranslated into English.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I agree with that, because for context, the Greek word that Paul uses in 1 Corinthians 6, he actually uses two. The one giving and the one receiving in the homosexual action. Paul explicitly mentions it in the Bible. But I don't want to focus on that specifically. What I want you to do is think about it in the opposite way. Is the pleasure that you have from being in a relationship with somebody, anyone, even if it was a relationship that God said absolutely and go ahead with, would that be worth going to hell for? Is there anything in this world that's worth having, worth holding on to, worth possessing, that's worth going to hell for?
Well, right now, as I see it, I'm not gonna push away my feelings that I'm feeling right now for something just for a faith or a belief when I've no complete proof. And I know the whole,
Okay.
I know the whole part of a religion is the faith and the belief,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to suppress feelings that I'm having right now
Mm-hmm.
for something that I have no definitive proof for.
Okay, because thinking back through the arguments or the things that we've looked at so far, when you say no definitive proof, what is it that you're not certain of? Because obviously it logically makes sense. What is it that is the point where you're saying, I don't think that makes sense?
Don't understand the question.
Okay, what part are you doubting? What part are you not sure of? That's what I'm asking.